Today we're going to talk about working a hide. This bunny had an accident, and so we're going to salvage the hide. With a young rabbit, you can just peel it away just with your hand, like this. Just kind of working it, keeping it taut. Go from the front toward the back where and when you can, because otherwise sometimes it can tear. And as much as you can, leave it in a sheet so that you don't have to restart, because it's the restarting that's difficult. It's kind of working it away with your thumb. You want to remove as much of the flesh and fat as you can in order to preserve a hide. You preferably should be doing this with the pelt still warm. If you decide to refrigerate it before working it, then let it sit out a little bit so it'll warm up and it'll come off a lot easier. If you decide to freeze it, don't freeze it too long because they freezer burn really easy. But doing the pelts on a day and with a little bit of wind and a little bit of sun, then they'll dry pretty quickly. You want to have a board that's big enough for the pelt waiting by. I just use a little scrap of plywood, and I reuse my nails repeatedly. This pelt is almost done. You want to inspect the edges, make sure you get all because the fat tends to be on the edges, because that's where the stomach is. And they have a lot of fat on their stomach. If this was an older rabbit or specifically a male, sometimes the meat doesn't want to come away, so you'll have to take and, again, you want it taut, take and work it with your razor knife. Obviously that's more labor intensive. And this is the same way you'd work a big hide, only of a large animal, only in that instance you're using your knife more and you're cutting off in little pieces. Because it doesn't just pull away like this, because the rabbit's very tender. The pelt is thin, so you may end up with tearing if you're not careful doing this method, or doing the razor knife. So that where I can, I will not use the razor knife on rabbits, because you can accidentally cut through. Okay, so this is pretty well ready to tack down. I have a hammer and nails specifically for this. Start with the tail, center of the body down there, and then stretch it over. And try to find your way as you go. Every 3-4 inches you want to tack down a nail. Do one side and then the other. Pull it pretty tight. If you don't pull it tight enough, it'll be really thick. Make sure, this is the arm, so when you get up there, make sure you put 2 nails, one on each side of the arm. You want to go with tradition when you're tacking down a pelt. Try to go with the shape of the animal, bearing in mind which way is up helps. If you get lost and you don't know which way is the tail and which way is the head, then look at the nap. It pets down just like a cat would. And then once that side's done, then you move on to this side. Little holes are okay. You're going to have that in a lot of hides where you've had an accident with your razor knife or by pulling on it. Those are natural, and you'll even find that in commercial hides. So don't worry about it. Just if you're selling your pelts, then this sometimes will happen, it's tearing away. Go back and hammer them in better. Maybe find a different spot. And you can use any size nails. Thinner is obviously going to leave a smaller hole. It kind of snaps back. If you run out of space on your board, you can double tack it. Just don't overlap it too far without putting salt between them. Okay, so this is actually ready to be salted. We just use any salt. You want to salt it heavy enough so that you're covering it adequately, but not wasting salt. If you salt it too light, then it won't cure correctly. Make sure you get along all the edges. You don't want to get any bad spots. So once it's salted, leave it for a second to kind of permeate the hide. If you pick it up right away, then it'll knock all the salt off. This will also give you the opportunity to look at it. Now when you are putting it out to dry, you can put it in the direct sun. If it's too hot that day, don't put it out in the direct sun, because if it dries too fast, then it won't properly cure. You want it to take a couple days. You can also, if it's poor weather, you can put it inside in a window. Make sure you put a pan under it, because this is soaking up this salt, and then it's going to start draining down the board. So be aware of that. Don't put it on a carpet or anything. So a couple days, once this is good and dry, then you can take it off, remove your nails, rub the salt off. Let me grab a hide so you can look at it. This is what they look like done, kind of papery. This still has the salt on. Gonna give it a rub. Shake it off. This is preparatory to tanning. These also can be used for dog treats. So this is what your product is going to look like. This is not exactly ready for use doing clothing, because this will suck in moisture. So when you store these hides, you want to store them somewhere dry and not humid, because they will suck in moisture and they'll rehydrate, and you don't want that. So that is how you do a hide.